Well, hi, friends. I am live all by my lonesome today. So let me know if you see us or see me. Anyway, I would love to make sure we are live. And we're going to go live on Instagram. So hold on. I haven't done this for a while. So I'm by myself today. So that always feels a little nerve wracking. Welcome, everyone. Welcome, everyone. So let me know you're here. I would love to make sure that we're live and that we're here. And I'll assume my tech person. Hi, Terry, good to see you on Instagram. I see that we're live there. Thank you so much. I'm here by myself. My husband is taking a vacation by himself with an old college roommate in Chicago. And so he's not here. So he had to walk me through setting this all up last night. And I'm so happy it worked. So welcome, everyone. You know me in tech. I'm like totally nervous around it. I'm getting better, but it's making me very nervous. But welcome. We have a hot topic today in preparation for our webinar. So just for your information, in 2 weeks from tomorrow, 2 weeks from Tuesday, October 7th, I'm going to be doing a brand new workshop. And the title of the new workshop is he really changing or is he just pretending to change? How many of you relate to that? And so one of the things I want to use this workshop for, Amazon is thinking I'm talking to him. Hold on. One of the reasons that I want to use this Facebook Live and this Instagram Live today and YouTube Live today is to get your feedback. How do you know? How do you know whether someone is really changing or just pretending? Because I'm going to create a workshop for you in 2 weeks that is going to be really interactive so that by the end of the workshop, you're going to know. You're going to know how to know. You're going to know how to know. And so I thought I would start our 2-week we do some Facebook Lives leading up to the workshop in asking you, how do you know now? How can you tell whether someone, in the topic for today, is this a turning point? Is this a turning point in our relationship? Yeah, we had a bad season or we've had a bad episode, of cheating or a lying or abuse or addictions, or we've had a bad season here. And now he's turning and it looks like things are better, but is this a turning point really? Or is this another repeat of the same old cycle? And I think this is really important for you to learn how to tell the difference, because we get our hopium up. We get our hopes up when we see some change. But is that change truly a turning point? Or is it part of the same old cycle? So Heather says one of the things that she would look for is humility. Humility. Jana's saying actions speak louder than words. You guys are rocking it, because those are some of the key signs. But what would humility look like? What would humility look like? How do we know? Let's learn together, Leanne says, about some of the signs that we would look for. Okay, so Crystal says change should be for himself, not just for the relationship. So write that down. So if he is saying, okay, I'll go to counseling, what does that tell you? He's not convicted that he needs to change. What he's saying is, you're twisting my arm. I will do what you want in order to keep our relationship. And that may work for a bit, but it will not work for the long run, because if someone, it's sort of like saying, and this is a story that may relate. Sometimes as women, how many of you have been in this position? You're going somewhere, you have a wedding, you have a reunion, you're going to meet an old friend that you haven't seen for a while, and you want to look good. And so you start dieting, you start exercising, you want to lose that 10 pounds or 5 pounds or 25 pounds or whatever you want to do in order to go to this wedding, go to this reunion, go to this event and look your best. And we've all done it. I'm guilty as anyone. And you go to the event, you look your best, you feel great, and then you just go back to your old ways because the event is over. The motivation for change was real, but the motivation for change was external. It wasn't internal. I wanted to look good for the event. Once the event was over, I didn't need to worry about that anymore. And I went back to my old eating habits, right? So Crystal is saying he asked me for a list of what he should do. Crystal, I watched your videos prior and said, no, it's best if you figure out, because you're going to do it for you because you truly want to. This is gold, ladies. This is gold. If your husband asks you for a list of what you should do, don't give it to him. because you might want him to be someone he doesn't want to be. And maybe God doesn't even want him to be that, right? Sometimes we want to shape our husbands into the image of our desires. That's not our job as his wife. Our job as his wife is to help him become the man God called him to be. Now, God doesn't call him to be an abuser. God doesn't call him to be an addict. God doesn't call him to be a bully. God doesn't call him to be selfish and excuse me, selfish and out of control with his temper. He doesn't call him to be any of those things. But it's not our job to define what he's to be. So please don't give him a list. Please don't give him a list. So how do you know? What would humility look like? Karen's asking. What are some of the signs of humility? Here would be one. When you say, that really bothered me, or I don't like that. Instead of arguing with you, instead of putting you in the, well, if you wouldn't have talked back to me, I wouldn't have acted that way. Or if you wouldn't have spent so much money, I wouldn't have blown up over the credit card. Right? So there's a deflection that comes when you give someone feedback about how they're behaving and they put it back on you. Well, if you wouldn't have asked me so many questions, if you would have just given me a list, I would have known what to do, right? All of the you, it's your fault. That's a lack of self-awareness and a lack of self-humility. It's not saying, wow, my wife is my helpmate to give me feedback. I'm sure if you gave him feedback as a wife and said, hey, hon, FYI, your zipper's down. How many husbands would give you kickback on that? They wouldn't say, I can't believe you're telling me that. That's so disrespectful. They would, I can't even imagine a husband saying that because we know they don't want to walk around in public with their zipper down. And they would get in trouble if they walked around purposely with their zipper down in public, right? And so we've got their back. We're signaling, we've got your back. Your zipper's down, pull it up. Or even bad breath. Like if they were, my husband has given me a Tic Tac in public when I'm talking to people because he can smell my breath. I don't take that as an offense. That's humility of saying, wow, you've got my back, right? And so when we give someone feedback, we don't get angry with them. We're humble enough to know that we can't see all angles. My husband tells me my hair's sticking up and back. Good. My girlfriend tells me my lipstick's on my teeth. Good. Thank you. That helps me improve myself. And so when we give each other feedback, both in the body of Christ and in our home, especially in our home, you have the privilege of giving your husband feedback as he gives you feedback in a way that no other person has access, right? People don't have access to me the way my husband, or you don't have, you have access to your husband in a way that people don't have. And so when he refuses to listen to you or have humility enough to know I can't see myself clearly without the mirror, without lights, without my wife, then that gives you a clue that he isn't changing or he isn't making a turning point. What if they do notice and get upset? What if they do get upset that you notice their breath is bad? My husband gets pouty and upset. Deanna, that's a really, really good question. So what does that tell you? So you can't change them, but it's giving you information. And I'm going to teach you in the webinar how to notice whether he's changing or whether it's giving you information that you need to pay attention to. So if you give your husband feedback, hey, here's a Tic Tac, your breath is bad, and he gets all offended, what does that tell you? What does it tell you? Put it in the chat. What do you think? What does it tell you? What does it tell you about his capacity to look at himself? So it tells you his capacity to look at himself is very, very limited, right? He's insecure. His ego is very fragile. He's prideful. Yes. So that tells you that, wow, this person can't grow, can't learn, can't change, won't change, because even if I tell him he needs a Tic Tac, he can't hear me. I'm not allowed to be his helpmate. He doesn't want, he has to see himself as perfect or he gets all pouty, right? So there's a very fragile ego inside of him. Okay. He's not teachable, Roselle says. He's prideful. He's insecure for sure. And we don't want to be snarky about that, but we want to understand this man is probably not capable at this level in his life to change. If he can't even receive the feedback about his breath or his body odor, even from himself, like how many of you have sniffed your underarms and given yourself some feedback that I need some deodorant, I need to take a shower, I can't go without a shower today, right? And so the feedback that we get from our mirror, from our friends, from one another, from strangers even, is usually meant for our good. I was walking out of a bathroom one event that I was speaking at, and I think it was in Sandy Cove in Maryland. And I was speaking there, and I was walking out of the bathroom, and a woman ran up behind me and she said, "Oh, dear, this was when you used to wear pantyhose, and my skirt was caught at the edge of my pantyhose. And so my whole rear end that I didn't know about was exposed as I was walking out the bath door of the bathroom, or the front, the bathroom door." And so she was a total stranger who came to my aid for my good. She didn't want me to humiliate myself, which I would have had I walked out into the hallway with my skirt tucked up my rear end. And so understand that when people give us feedback, most people are not meaning to harm you. They're meaning to help you. Just like if you walk in front of a mirror, ladies, and you see a big old booger coming out of your nose, you're grateful. You're not yelling at the mirror, "I can't believe you're showing me my nose. This is terrible." You're just fixing it. You're fixing it. And so if your husband can't receive your feedback, that's not a good sign. It's not a good sign. He's childish. I'm sorry, I'm having some coughing problems here. Let me just get a drink. Okay, so how would you know it's just another cycle? How would you know that? How would you know it's another cycle? What's the cycle? How do you know? So a cycle means there's a pattern. And in abuse literature, here's the pattern. Now, it hasn't proven 100% true, so we don't talk about it anymore, the abuse cycle, but I'm going to talk about it with you. There's an abusive incident, or there's an adultery incident, or whatever. There's an incident that's damaging to you. Okay. And then there's a period of remorse, calm, he's good, he does it right, he's charming, he's loving, he's faithful, he's honest, whatever. There's a period of this. And so you, as the partner, are thinking, he learned his lesson. Things are good. He's helping with the kids. He's not spending crazy money on the internet gambling or whatever he was doing before. He's loving me, and he's being nice, and he's not being angry, and he's not blowing up, or whatever he did before he's not doing. So you think, he's changing. He's got it. He's not going to do this anymore. So if you think about a clock, okay, I don't have my whiteboard here. If you think about a clock, you've got 12 o'clock, and then from 12 o'clock to maybe about 5:30, things are going well. And then around 5:30, things start feeling a little dicey again. And you usually feel it. How many of you feel it in your body? You feel it. Something's not right, right? There's a tension building of something. Either you're suspicious about something, or his temper is starting to get a little edgy, or he's not as open as he was before, or he's a little bit more snarky than he used to be. And so there's this swing, and it starts to smell familiar of the old pattern. Right? How many are you with me? And then that goes up to about 11 o'clock, and then there's another incident. So what I'd like you to do is think back to your relationship history, go over the pattern of the number of incidents that you've had. So I want to ask you a couple questions. Please don't put it on the Facebook, okay? When was the first time in your marriage that things got really awful? What was the first time? It might be for some of you on your honeymoon. When was the first time it got really awful? Get your pen, write it on a paper. Please don't put it on the This is my public Facebook page. Don't tell your story on the public Facebook page. That might come back to bite you. When was your first time that this happened? So it might be for some of you on my honeymoon, he was completely indifferent to me. He completely ignored me, or he raped me on my honeymoon, or he got drunk on our honeymoon and spent all the time at the bar. He spent all the time at the gambling casinos. We were on a cruise and he was never in our room. What was the first time this happened? Whatever happened? What was the last time? Whatever happened? Okay, so now what I want you to do is from the first time to the last time, right? So the first time this happened, for some of you, it might be on your honeymoon. It might have been before your marriage. It might have been when you were pregnant with your child. The last time might have been that was the only time. And I've been married 25 years and it never happened since. So now you know. There was a turning point. He changed. Now he might still have other flaws, but that didn't happen again. That's good. Or the first time was my honeymoon. The last time was last week. And there's tons of times in between. All right, so what's the first time? We're just trying to look at the pattern now. What's the first time? What's the last time? He lied to you. He cheated on you. He hit you. He called you awful names. He drove crazy. Whatever it is that it is, and it might be a couple of things. The first time, last time. Third question. What's a typical time? What's a typical time? Describe it, write it out. I want you to see it. I don't have to see it. I've seen them. I've seen a lot of them. I know what to look for, okay? I'm trying to teach you what to look for. What was the first time? What was the last time? What's a typical time? Write it out. And one more question. What was the worst time? What was the worst time? Okay. And so now I want you to look at those times and ask yourself. So when I thought he was changing, what did that look like? So was he really changing, or was it this cycle where it went from 12 o'clock to 5:30 and then it started getting bad again? And then he got caught. He, got arrested. He, whatever. I threatened to divorce him and now he got good again and now it got bad again and we're back around the cycle. So here's the cycle where he gets good again and you're thinking, oh, he's got it. He's repenting. He's changing. And then it gets bad again. And then you go around the cycle, right? So here's the mistake that you're making. You're thinking that his change in the first half of the cycle from 12 o'clock to 5:30 is real. It's not real. He's doing it to avoid the consequences. Whatever consequences you threatened, I'm leaving, I'll call the police, I'm going to tell the pastor, I'm going to tell your mother, whatever consequences you have threatened, I'm not talking to you, I'm not sleeping with you, whatever consequences you put in place or he feared that you would put in place because of what he did, he doesn't want to experience. And so he's turning on the charm. He's doing what he needs to do to get you to relax, to get you to go back to the way you were so that he can go back to the way he was. And then the cycle starts all over again. And so we want to help you do differently. And that's why it's so important that you show up for this workshop. Because not only am I going to teach you how to discern whether he's really changing or just pretending, but what do you do if he is just pretending and he's not really changing? What changes do you need to make so that you don't go back into the same cycle? Because you see, that 12 o'clock to 5:30 time, he's charming you and you're believing it because you want to. I get it. You want to. And we want to give our husbands the benefit of the doubt. I do too. Everybody does. But this is where I want you to look at the pattern. What was the first time? What was the last time? What's a typical time? What's the worst time, the first time, the first time, last time, typical time, worst time? Those are the 4 questions that I want you to ponder to see what the cycle looks like for you. And that will help you to see, is this a turning point or is this just another cycle where I'm doing the same thing and he's doing the same thing? I'm forgiving and giving in, or I'm getting mad and threatening, and then he's getting good, and then I'm giving in, and then we're going back around the same mulberry bush over and over and over again. So if this is you and you need more help, please, please, please sign up for a private workshop that I'm doing off of social media. It's going to be on, I'm going to put a thing up on the, I'm going to have to, can't talk and put these banners up at the same time. So let me do that. Here you go. There you go. So you can sign up at www.leslievernick.com/join workshop, all one word. All right. And it's going to be off of social media. It's going to be on a private webinar space where oftentimes hundreds, sometimes thousands of women join us for this help all over the world, because Christian women have not been taught how to deal with this in a biblically godly way. They've been taught to give in. They've been taught to love their enemies in spite of how he treats you. And you are to love your enemy. That's the confusing spiritual part. We are to love our enemy, but Jesus doesn't say you have to live with your enemy or kiss them or share a bank account or have sex with your enemy. And that's what marriage involves. And so how do you love your enemy when he lives in your house? You're married to him. What does that look like specifically? Because there's some changes that you might have to make too, in order for you to get out of this cycle, out of this pattern. And the women that we work with all over the world have been in the cycle for 20, 30, 40 years, thinking that, oh, he's changing, and then it goes around again. Oh, he's changing. Oh, it goes around again. And so it's the same cycle, same song, different verse. And sometimes the cycle is getting more and more dangerous for you, more and more unsafe for you. His anger is escalating. For example, when I asked one woman this question, when I was counseling her, when was the first time on my honeymoon he shoved me? I was talking to him. He didn't like what I was saying, and he just pushed me pushed me back, and I was shocked. And what was the last time? Well, the last time I didn't want to watch TV with him. I was tired and I wanted to go to bed, and I went up the stairs and he pulled me by my hair down the stairs and I almost fell. And then my teenage son ran out of the bedroom with his gun and said, if you don't let go of Mom, I'm going to shoot you. Well, now we've got the first time he pushes her. The last time is a very serious situation in which her adolescent son is threatening to kill his father because his father's abusing his mother, and he knows it and he can't stand it. This is really serious sometimes. And what's a typical time? And what's the worst time? And that wasn't even the worst time for her. The worst time was a sexual abuse incident. And so this is the time, ladies, for you to be honest with yourself. I have been in this ministry for 50 years now, and I have worked with women who have been through horrible, horrible abuse, horrible, horrible deceit, addictions, and they've been taught by their Christian counselors and their church that they have to stay, that God hates divorce, that they can't leave, that they can't protect their children. When I was writing my book on the emotionally destructive marriage, I interviewed hundreds and hundreds of women who did that, who stayed, just like their church told them to. And I asked them, how did that impact your kids? How did that impact your kids? Because that's our worry, isn't it, as mamas? We don't want to break up the family because we're accused of breaking up the family even when they're breaking up the family. But when we finally say no more, we're accused of breaking up the family. And all of the women said, I wish I would have left. My kids are damaged. My kids are damaged. Your children do need two healthy parents, but when one of them is very, very unhealthy, they need at least one healthy parent, and that's you. And you need to do the work for yourself to get strong enough, brave enough, and surrounded with enough support to do the work that you need to do to stay healthy and strong. And we'll show you how to do that in this workshop and invite you to participate in Conquer. Our doors to Conquer will open at this workshop. And many of you are in Conquer, and a lot of you are saying, I want to be in Conquer. We only open Conquer twice a year because we want to love on our women and teach them and work with them and not worry about all the new people who are coming in. We only let new people in twice a year so that we can really care for them at that time, because many of them are in crisis. And so if this is you, please show up for this workshop. Is he really changing or just pretending? Because I'm going to give you kind of a roadmap of how to tell. And so this woman who said, he can't even bear for me to tell him he has bad breath, that tells you something. It may not help your marriage, but it will help you to make the right choices. And so what I'm going to teach you, in addition to how do you know he's pretending or changing, and some men have changed, and I'm grateful for that, is what do you do if he's not changing? How do you change? How do you take some action for yourself? And what does that look like biblically? Because many of you, if you're listening to me, are Christian women who want to follow God and do it right. And I want to help you do that. Yeah. Crystal just said, I had a revelation. Wives are helpmates like the Holy Spirit. So if he's refusing my help, he's definitely not listening to the still small voice of the Holy Spirit and our divine helper. And you're right that God has given you a helpmate and he's given him a helpmate. That's what marriage does. We function certainly as a support system and our best friend and all of that, but we also function as the lights and mirrors for one another. Hebrews tells us that we are to encourage one another as a body of believers day after day, lest any one of us become hardened by the deceitfulness of sin. You know, I have done some podcasts with Julie Royce. I don't know if you know who she is, but she's a woman in Illinois who does a lot of news reporting on the corruption in the church. And every single day I see pastors falling like flies through corruption and mismanagement of money and sexual abuse and abuse of children and child porn and abuse of power, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And why is that? Why is that? I think it's because sometimes when you get full of yourself, you don't listen to anybody else. You aren't willing to hear feedback from people. And you can't be your best self. How many of you, I did not show up to this Facebook Live without looking in the mirror, right? Because if I showed up like I did looking this morning, I would not have looked like this, okay? My hair sleeps and it goes straight up. And, you know, I've got little black things in my eyes and my face looks greasy. And, you know, I need feedback. I've got to fix things up here before I show up publicly. And we all do. We all do. And we value our lights and we value our mirror. We don't yell at our mirror for making us look ugly. We look at our mirror and say, thank you for helping me fix myself up. And in the same way, when one another says things, says, let a righteous man strike me, it is a kindness. It is a kindness. That faithful are the wounds of a friend. And yet love does no harm. So sometimes love hurts when we speak the truth in love. But how many of you as women are afraid to do that in your own home? Because what you say is not received. And you're not trying to be mean. You're trying to be helpful. Like, hey, that was pretty harsh with the kids. I know you want to be a good dad, but that's not going to help you parent them very well. Would he hear that? Would he say, well, what do you mean? Tell me more. That's how my dad always did it to me. And it might be that that's how his dad always did it. But you're there to help him be a better man. Is he willing to listen? Is he willing to hear you? And if not, then he's saying, I don't need you. I don't need you in my life to help me be a better person. I need you to serve me, have sex with me, cook my meals, wash my floors and clean my house, take care of my kids, and don't bother me. That is not marriage. That is not how God designed marriage. But many of you are in that kind of situation. And sadly, I think that sometimes the church has had a false kind of teaching about the relationship of marriage and how it's supposed to work. And so what I want to do right now is just invite you to give me some feedback. What has been your experience with this? Is he changing or is he pretending? What's been your experience and what do you need me to teach you at this workshop in 2 weeks? What is the essential thing that you need me to teach you how to do in this workshop so that you can be the healthy parent that your children need and the wife that God calls you to be, even if he doesn't like it? What do you need to strengthen internally for yourself? What do you need to change in order to be the woman that God's calling you to be in this moment? In this moment. You know, Esther had to be a wife that she never, she was a sex slave in the scriptures. And she did pretty well in that department. And so he made her the queen. And then she had to be a different kind of wife. She had to speak the truth to her husband. She had to be brave, put her brave on. It was scary for her. And she did it in a wise and winsome way. And he heard her. He might not have, but he did hear her. And she not only saved her life, she saved the Jewish people's life. And so God has given you a privilege of being a wife, a helpmate. But what do you need to do to step up, to know how to be the best partner for this man who's going off the edges and the cliffs? And what boundaries do you need to protect yourself and your children for your own safety and sanity? Those are questions that I think are really, really important that Christian women have to start facing now if they want to be prepared for the age we're in right now. And I want to help you do that. And so I would love for you to either put it in the chat or privately email us at assistant@leslievernick.com. What do you need to know so that as I'm preparing for this workshop in 2 weeks, I can put that into the workshop so that when you come, you are going to get what you need. But right now, what I'd like to do is answer some questions. And so Karen is looking at your feedback. And if you have a question, put it in there. If you don't want to put it in there and you don't want to do it publicly on Instagram or you don't want to do it publicly in Facebook, please go to, I always forget what this is, but go to leslievernick.com/question. If you just go to leslievernick.com/question, you'll get a form that comes up and just write your question there. And then Karen will see it and she'll send it to me. And then I can answer your question publicly, but nobody will know that you said it. Okay. So if you want to ask a question privately, go to leslievernick.com/question. And then that form will come up and you can ask your question there instead of on Facebook or Instagram or YouTube where it's public for everybody to see your question. All right. Before I turn my head and look at the questions, what I want you to do is give me what is your takeaway from today. So the topic is this the same old cycle or is there real change? How will I know? What was your takeaway from this? Maybe it was that you learned about the cycle and that you've been dancing in that cycle for 25 years and didn't realize this is a cycle, this is a pattern, and I need to pay attention to the pattern. Maybe as you noticed what was the first time, what was the last time, what was the worst time, the things are actually getting worse. They're getting more dangerous for you, and you need to get a safety plan going. Maybe you noticed that, and that was important for you to notice, and God wants you to notice. So what were your takeaways from today, from our conversation? Yeah, what are your takeaways from our conversation? And then I'm going to answer some questions. Yeah, unsafe, escalated in time. Yeah. STDs. Yeah. Red flags before marriage. You know, it's so hard to see the red flags before marriage because both of us are playing a game. You're pretending. You're so in love and you're so infatuated with one another that you don't see the flaws. And if you see them, you make excuses for them, right? How many of you did that? We all do, right? And there's been some brave girls who have called off a wedding, seeing some things ahead of time and saying, you know what? I don't think this is a smart marriage. I'm going to call it off. They've lost thousands of dollars in all the wedding planning, all the stuff, all the shame of all of that. And yet they were better off because of it. But it's really, really a hard thing to do. All right. So I'm going to go to the questions and answer some of your questions, and then we'll go. Do sign up for the workshop. It's at leslievernick.com/join workshop, all one word, if you want to attend. It's in 2 weeks. We're going to have 2 different sessions, one at this time, noon Eastern time, and the other time will be in the evening at 7:30 p.m. Eastern time. And again, it will be off social media so that you're a little freer to express yourself. The workshop will probably take about not even an hour. I'm trying to make it shorter these days, 40 minutes, 45 minutes. And then we'll do a Q&A for usually about 90 minutes. I stay with one of my coaches and we answer as many questions as we can because we really want to help you. And this is all free for you. We want to give this to you. Afterwards, we'll invite you to join Conquer if you want to, but no obligation. You can come for free and learn what you need to learn for free and grow and do what you need to do and be the person that God's called you to be. So let me read the first question. I recently separated from my husband, moving into a condo. He's being super duper nice, supportive, loving, all the things I have wanted. After 5 years of the abuse cycle, I don't know what to think. All right, so I'm going to give you a magic word, and I'm going to give this word in the workshop as well, but I'm going to kind of give you a preview. I'm going to give you a magic word to use often, often, to see how he handles it. And the word is no. Okay, here's your magic word, no. So let me give you an example. Well, can I just sleep over tonight? No, I don't think that's a good idea right now. How does he handle that? Can we change weekends with the kids? Because I want to go to the baseball game. Now, I'm not saying always say no, but if you can, and you need to or want to say, no, that's not going to work for me. I have plans. Okay. So practice. You don't have to say it mean, but just practice, because Christian women don't typically say no to their husbands. Because why? Oh, I'm supposed to submit, so I don't have my no. If you can't learn how he handles your no, you don't know if he's changing. So let me give you a story that a pastor wanted a couple to reconcile, because he said, you're apart 6 months. He's doing his work. He's been in counseling. He's changing. And she's going, I don't feel he's changing. And he didn't listen. The pastor didn't listen to her. And so he said, well, he says, he's not going to hit you. He had been physically abusive. He's not going to hit you. And she said, but he's still not safe. And, I think he's safe. He's doing his work. I think you need to be reconciled. You can't fix this marriage. All the stuff that they say, right? All the stuff. And so she talks to me and I said, well, what makes you think that he's not safe? And so here was her story. So he came over to the house to babysit the kids because he had, visitation. And so she went up to her bedroom and didn't interfere, and she let him babysit the kids. Of course, he didn't give them a bath or help them with his homework because he really wanted to watch the football game and he didn't have a TV where he was at. So he turned on the TV, and so she ended up putting the kids to bed, which was typical of their pattern. So he wasn't really fathering. He was just coming to their house to watch the football game. So it got to be about 9:30 and the football game wasn't over, and she wanted him to leave because she wanted to go to bed and she did not want him downstairs while she was in the house. And so she said, I need you to leave. Oh, Ken, I just finished watching the game. It's halftime. I'll be done, only another hour. No, I want you to leave. I don't feel safe with you here and me going to bed, and I need to go to bed. I have to go to work tomorrow. He gave her a fit, called her a few names, stormed out of the house in a rage. But he's changing, right? He didn't hit her, but he's changing, right? He's not changing. He had no self-awareness of, I'm being selfish, I'm being lazy, I'm blaming her. All of this stuff that he always did is still happening, not to the same degree, but it's still there. But how would she have known that if she let him stay? She wouldn't have. And so you have to use your no a lot. And so I just encourage you for this question, start saying no, make sure you say it kindly, but say it firmly and see how he handles it. Because a changed man will say, oh, okay, I get it. I understand you still don't feel ready or you still don't feel safe. I'm disappointed. So they can be disappointed for sure, but they're not going to push and pressure, guilt trip you, bully you, spiritually abuse you with you need to submit, you're being an ungodly woman, you're a Jezebel spirit, all of the words that they use to get you to get scared and back down. Now, if you're genuinely scared, if someone's holding a gun to my head, I'm going to say, okay, right? So please don't say no to your detriment, all right? But that tells you something. I'm not allowed to say no without pain and suffering. This isn't changing, all right? Pay attention. All right. Is there a safe way to have a conversation that won't lead to a destructive experience? Well, I'm going to the AACC, the American Association of Christian Counselors, tomorrow to teach counselors to assess that. But if there isn't a safe way to have a conversation in your experience, no, unless you have it with a mediator. But even then, you're afraid because if you speak the truth, what's going to happen in the parking lot? So if you can't have even the safest conversation of, no, I don't want to, no, I don't like it. If you're not allowed to have that much of a say in a conversation safely, then pay attention. That's a huge warning signal that I will bully you, intimidate you, harm you, threaten you, ignore you, not talk to you for 2 years until you say, yes, do what I want. And again, if you live in a concentration camp, if you're in, if we get captured as Christians and thrown in a concentration camp like the Jews did at World War II, I'm going to say yes to most everything if I have to. I'm not going to let myself be harmed because I'm holding my ground there. But I'm not going to kiss them and marry them. I'm not going to stay married to someone who treats me that way. So if an enemy, which is what Jesus says, if don't resist an enemy, if an enemy tries to harm you, don't resist that. But if it's your brother or sister who sins against you, go to them and talk to them. And if they listen, so if it's safe and they listen and you have a good conversation, you can be reconciled. But if they refuse to listen, he also says in Matthew 7, don't keep casting your pearls before swine. They'll trample you with it. It's dangerous. So what I'm teaching you ladies right here, right now, in more depth at the workshop, is pay attention to your experience of what happens in the here and now. And if you're not heard, you're not valued, you're not allowed to talk, or the other person isn't either. And we live in a culture where that happens often in relationships. It's terrible. And it leads to harm. It doesn't lead to good. Right? And if there was one message in the whole Charlie Kirk funeral experience, which I didn't listen to all of it, but I listened to some of it. And I had never heard of Charlie Kirk before 2 weeks ago. And I don't agree with everything. But all I'm saying is that the message of love your enemy, is there. Love your enemy. And if we could do that, if we could have a conversation where we listen to one another, even if we completely disagreed, I think we'd go a lot farther in this country and in our families than if we're always having to be right. Right? We're not always right. Even as women, we're not always right. So I've had conversations with my husband and I'm completely wrong, but we have those conversations safely and we can have them. And I hope you can too. And if you can't, then no, you can't. Understand, you can't. Don't keep casting your pearls before swine, it says. All right. If I decide to stay for the sake of my child, how do I stay healthy? What would boundaries look like when I'm being verbally abused? Whenever I mention my needs or I disagree, the silent treatment, stonewalling. Well, this is a bigger question than probably I can answer in, 30 seconds or less. And so I would really encourage you to come to the workshop and join Conquer. We have a whole curriculum and a whole group of women who are trying to do just what you're trying to do. And you have the support and the camaraderie to do that. And so we really encourage you to do that. But the short answer is your child better off? Is he a good dad? That would be my first question. Is your child really better off because you're trying to stay for the sake of my child? So some women stay when their children are very little because their children are not safe in the care of the father. He's so irresponsible or so checked out or so mean that they couldn't possibly give him custody for even a weekend. So I get that. And that's a noble sacrifice that you're making to stay for the sake of your child. But if he's a terrible dad, I'm not sure that it's the best to stay for the sake of him because now he's got two unhealthy parents, you who are enabling and him who's bad. And so maybe his dad is a hard dad when he's with him and now he's in a healthy home when you're with him and they see this difference and this contrast and that can be really a much better situation. But if they're little and they don't have the means to call you or say what's going on, then for sure, I understand what you're saying. So I would say boundaries would look like my boundaries are I cannot ask him for anything because he will hurt me with that. So I would make a boundary. I can't ask him to meet my needs. I can't ask him for help because he will harm me with that information. The other boundary I would have is when he gives me the silent treatment, I will not beg him to talk to me. I will go out with my friends. I will have a life. I will do what I need to do for me. I will develop an outside support system. I will not depend on him for those things so that I am getting some support. I am getting some care. I am getting my needs met. And he's seeing that tactic of withdrawing and withholding and the silent treatment isn't working to control me into compliance. All right. Now, obviously, if he threatens you in other harmful ways into compliance, this is a more dangerous situation. And in our Conquer membership, we go through all that and help you to assess, am I in danger? Am I in danger of being financially harmed? Is he going to cut off my bank account? Is he access to my money, access to our money? Is he going to spend all our money on another woman, on gambling, all of those kind of things? We help you assess, am I spiritually in danger? Is he using the Bible to oppress me? And am I getting all confused spiritually? Am I seeing God differently than I should? And so those would be the ways that we would help you assess your danger levels, including physical danger. But I think for now, you're going to have some boundaries for you, not for him. You can't set boundaries on another person. And that's a real confusing thing about boundaries. You only set them on you for your safety and for your well-being. This is what I will do. This is what I won't do. So for example, a boundary might be, I'm not going to stay and listen to this when you're calling me names. If you can have a conversation about what you're upset about later, I'm happy to hear you. If you want to write it down, I'm happy to read it, but I'm not going to listen to you calling me a bunch of names right now. It's too toxic. And I would just walk away. Now, if he yanks your shirt back, understand that that's information for you to call 911. You're in more danger and he's being more aggressive. But you don't have to listen to someone being verbally abusive to you. You could just say, even if you can't say, I'm not going to listen to you, what you could say is, oh my gosh, I'm sorry, I've got to go to the bathroom. Just go to the bathroom, shut the door and lock it and let him be. All right. And take care of yourself. All right. What else do you do, especially when you have a lot of children and no money on your own? So we have seen women in Conquer who have a lot of children and no money of their own do amazing things. And so this is a limiting belief that you have, that you aren't able to take care of yourself. And this is part of your work to do, because I think that not only are our husbands extremely immature in terms of being a grown-up and a healthy grown-up, I think a lot of women are extremely immature as far as being a healthy grown-up. Because the very definition of a healthy grown-up is you can take care of yourself. Like my when I taught my kids growing up, I said, my job is that you don't need me anymore. That's my job, that you can take care of yourself, whether they were male or female. And a lot of men can't take care of themselves, and a lot of women can't take care of themselves. And a lot of men marry women to take care of them, and a lot of women marry men to take care of them. And it's fine to share that. But if you can't take care of yourself, that's your work to do. So what do you need to do to build your confidence, to build your skill set? So that if you have a lot of children, what else can you do to make money? What home things can you do to make money so that you can be more independent, more self-sufficient? So that if you had to leave your marriage, you could. You could. You always want to be capable. Ladies, if you're listening to me, I'm old now. I'm telling you, you must have the means to support yourself as a fully functioning adult. Please don't let your degree go down the toilet because I'm going to homeschool my children. Homeschool your children if you're able. If your husband is a good man, or even if he's not a good man and you have enough money to stay home and homeschool your children and you want to do that, do that. But do not give up your teaching certificate. Do not give up your nursing license. Do not give up your credentials for whatever you do. Keep your finger in that pie in case you need to support yourself and your children. You want to have that confidence that I can. And if you're in a place where you don't have that confidence, it's okay. We can help you build that confidence and those skill sets, but you have to take responsibility for that. You can't just, we had a woman once, I can't remember if it was on Facebook, I just want to be a princess and I want to have my, Prince Charming take care of me. That's a very child-oriented way of thinking. Of course we all did, didn't we? And then we had to wake up to real life. There is no fairy godmother. There is no pumpkin. There is no glass slippers. Life is hard, and it's going to get harder. And I want you to be capable of taking care of yourself. And I want you to teach your children how to be capable of taking care of themselves, because that's what adults do. And so if that's you right now, you have work to do. Come to the workshop, because I'm going to talk about that you have to always know, if I had to leave, I can. I know how to leave. I know how to support myself. And that gives you power in a relationship that's toxic. You might not choose to leave, but you could if you needed to. That's very different than, I'm stuck and I can't leave. That's a very different feeling, ladies. That's a very different feeling. You don't want to be in that place, and you don't want your children to be in that place. And so for them to not be in that place, you have to learn to not be in that place. And so I don't mean to be insensitive. You have a lot of children. Please don't have any more children right now, because you don't have the family life to sustain a good atmosphere for those children. And Go online, start meeting other people who have a lot of children. What do they do? What do people do with a lot of children to earn some extra money if they had to? I bet there's all kinds of things you could do. In Conquer, we have a whole book written by Conquer women who show what they did to earn money. And so the Conquer membership is a great membership for women like you who just need that support and some direction on how to move forward. Okay. Let's see. 4 years post-divorce, he was not willing to tell the truth, be honest, be transparent. He asked me, how can you stay married to a man? He asked me, how can you stay married to a man you can't trust? That's a really good question. So I'm going to be the old grandma here. I get to, because I've earned those stripes and I'm 50 years into this work. All right. You don't need, with an N-E-E-D, romantic love to stay married to someone. In the Old Testament, there was arranged marriages. They didn't even know each other before they got married. Okay, you don't need that. It's nice. It's certainly nicer to have sex with someone you feel attracted to than to have sex with someone you don't feel attracted to, all right? However, you need trust and you need to feel safe with the person you're living with. Otherwise, you're living as a slave. Slaves didn't feel safe and they didn't trust their master, most of them, unless it was a good master. But when you're living in an intimate relationship where you have to share your bed, share your body, share your bank account, and share your children, you need trust and safety. And if you don't have those things, and biblical love, and if you don't have those things, trust and safety, you are always going to live in a state of tension and high alert. And that's affecting your body and your children's body. Fight or flight, freeze or fawn. And that's not the way God designed you to live in family. He designed families to be the safest place on earth to raise children, because children need safety in order to grow and thrive. And so when you live in an environment, or your children are in an environment where there's no safety, no trust, yeah, how do you live with someone you don't trust? You can't. That doesn't mean you can't love them. You can, but you can't live with them. Just like if someone molested your child and you didn't trust them, you wouldn't let them live with you, would you? No, of course not. Because your child would be at risk. But they're still at risk when someone is dangerous and harmful to them, to you. And what are you going to do to get strong enough to say, I'm not going to do that anymore? Of course I can't live with someone I can't trust. I can live with someone I don't love. I can't live with someone I don't trust. All right. I don't love romantically. Okay. You can love someone biblically. All right. I have a very important question. I've been praying and asking God for direction for this. My daughter is a teenager. Her biological father is unsafe, emotionally and mentally. Has also been violent. I have full custody of and legal rights to my children. She's been asking recently that she wants to see him because she misses him. And she wishes that he was a healthy part of her life. I can't in good conscience say yes when every single time he has gaslit her, manipulated her, harmed her sisters and me. He has no problem lying and crossing every boundary. And a few years ago, when she did see him, she came away very disturbed, depressed, sad, because he would always twist things in a way that caused her inner conflict. How can I answer her? My heart breaks because I wish I could say yes, but he has never chosen to be a healthy or a safe person. So good for you, Mama. Good for you. Good for you. And so this is what I would say to my daughter. Honey, I know it's so hard. And you have such a beautiful heart for wanting to be in your dad's life and wanting to see him and get to know him. But he is not a safe person. And I don't want him to harm you. And right now, because I'm still in charge of your safety, at least most of the time, and you're starting to be in charge of your safety as a teenager. And I'm trying to teach you how to be able to discern people who are safe and people who aren't safe, like your girlfriend so-and-so who wasn't really a safe girlfriend because she, betrayed your trust. And she told, I would use an illustration. And so you're learning how to tell whether someone is safe or not safe. And he may be your dad, but he may not be someone safe that you can really have a daddy-daughter relationship with. He's your biological father, but he may not be really he's not capable of being a good dad. And until you're strong enough and healthy enough to be able to tell that difference and protect yourself, God's given me the job to protect you. And so I can't let you see him right now. I'm sorry that I know that's hard. So I would kind of do something like that. This is on record, so you can go back and listen to it again if you need to. But I would also do what you're doing, and I would protect her from that toxicity. Just like if you knew that there was COVID in an environment, or when it was awful, you would say, you know what, you can't go. I'm sorry, you can't go. It's too dangerous. Too dangerous to go to that person's house if their father isn't home or if their father has a history of abuse. Nope, you can't sleep over there. That's your job as the teacher of safety of your children. No, you can't go to that party if I can't call the parents and make sure they're there and that you're going to be safe and there's no alcohol or drugs going to be there. So those are the jobs of a parent, right? And it's hard because our children's heart is breaking because they do want to go to the party or they do want to go there and you're having to say no. But that's the job of a parent. And they will thank you later, but in the moment, they're not happy. And that's part of being mature enough to understand that and put up with that. Okay, so I hope that helps. It's hard. What if my husband is getting therapy and doing better in some things, but getting worse in others? How can I tell if things are actually changing? I think that's a really good question. So here's the question that you would ask him. So how's therapy going? Can we have a conversation about therapy? You've been going for a year. I see some changes. What are you working on? And what are the changes that you most want to make in you as a man, in you as a father, you as a husband? Those would be a variety of questions. I'll give you in the workshop a bunch of questions to ask him and so that will tell you something. If he's open and willing to talk to you about those things, you might see the kind of man he wants to be and what he's working on really doesn't have anything to do with what you want, what you need, but it might be good for him anyway. And so you can be patient and affirming and saying, I'm so glad you're working on your self-esteem. And I'm so glad that you're working on building your confidence so that you can speak up for yourself at work and all the things that he might have to work on. Is there anything else that you're working on that's going to make our relationship, better, or make me feel safer, whatever words you might want to use, depending on your context. But he might be working genuinely on things that really are for his benefit, but that aren't really going to strongly benefit you right now. But they might benefit you longer if he continues to get healthier, because healthy people are better to hang out with, work with, have as neighbors, even in superficial parent with, than unhealthy people. So I would affirm him going as long as he's working on himself. Here's the danger. When we twist someone's arm to go to counseling, you got to go to counseling. All right, I'll go. What they do is they come to the counselor, and if the counselor's not smart and knows how to deal with this, they really say, why are you here? Oh, my wife is such a bitch. She's so mean to me. She told me I had to cut in counseling or she's going to leave me. Oh my gosh, sir, you need better boundaries with that woman. And they're going to totally not know what's going on because he hasn't been honest. And so they're going to be trying to help him have better boundaries with you, who's destructive to him. And this is where it gets crazy. And so this is where I think it's really important. And I'll talk about this at the workshop. So please sign up for the workshop. What are the things if he does decide to go to counseling? So what are the things that he wants to change? So when I had couples in counseling, I would always ask them, so what is it that you want from counseling? What do you want to change about yourself? So oftentimes I get a man who looks like who, me? I don't want to change anything about myself. It's her. She's the problem. She needs to be more submissive. She needs to be more sexual. She needs to be more loved, whatever. And I say, okay, well, then you can go home. You don't need to be here. Because the worst thing is to counsel a woman in front of her husband who's going to use it against her later. See, the counselor thinks you're crazy. See, the counselor thinks you need, and you might need some work, friend. You might. We all do. But please see what his work is. And if there's been a lot of serious marital distress, I would encourage you to say, would it be okay with you if I came to you to your counseling session with you and asked your counselor some questions about the progress you're making? Yes or no? Is he going to be open with that or not? If not, that tells you something. You don't know what it tells you, but it tells you that he doesn't trust you to be open with what is really going on in his counseling. The other question you can ask is, hey, would you please sign a release that I could talk to your counselor about your progress? I need to know that for my decision making. And again, if there's been incidents where there's been some really serious sin, an honest person would say, absolutely, please talk to my counselor. I want you to know that I am working really hard on being the man that I think I need to be and that you need me to be for our marriage to work, right? That's a very different answer than, no way, you're so nosy. How dare you even ask me? Or just ignoring you or not answering you, right? And so those are questions that you can ask. And I'll teach you that in the workshop. We teach then in Conquer as well. But I'll give you some of those tools in the workshop so that you can be equipped to know, is he really changing or pretending? That's the topic of the workshop here. But we want you to understand, what is that cycle? And if you're in that abuse cycle where the 12 o'clock incident of abuse, and then all of a sudden he's Mr. Charmer again, and he's good and he does everything right, and then around 5:30 or 6 o'clock, whether it's one day or 2 weeks, he starts revving it back up again, the deceit, the gambling, the abuse, the addictions, and we're back in that cycle again. I want you to count the times you've been in that cycle and just take those first 4 questions. First time, the last time, the worst time, a typical time. And ask yourself, do I see a cycle here? And am I in it? What's my part? The only part you can change is your part. And I'm going to talk about that in the workshop as well. All right, I think we have no more time for questions. We're right at the top of the hour, and I've got another meeting to go to. So thank you so much. It's been a blessing. And please put in your takeaway, at least for yourself. What is your takeaway for today? And we'll see you tomorrow. We have another Facebook Live. Let me tell you what the topic is. It is, oh goodness, where is it? Tomorrow it is. Can't find it. Karen, we need to put that topic really quickly, fast. I can find it. But it is tomorrow. Oh, here it is. When you want to believe he's changing, but you don't know he can, if you can. So it kind of dovetails on what we talked about today. Tomorrow at evening, 7:30 p.m. Eastern time, will be a Facebook Live. All right? And I am heading to Dallas tomorrow, or Nashville tomorrow, for the AACC conference. So pray for me if you can, as I talk to counselors and leaders about what they're missing. All right, take care. God bless. Bye-bye.